Hello everybody, John here, and today onto the garage I'm fixing the seatbelt restraint clips on my Jaguar Xk8 X100. Now these clips are so often missing or broken, but for a lot of people they won't even know that the car's supposed to have them. It's a little plastic clip that you use to tuck the seatbelt behind so it doesn't get in the way of the door aperture, particularly when people are jumping in and out the back and trip them up. Now, the reality is that so few of us would ever use this for that purpose, i.e. people getting in the back, that occasionally the seatbelt will accidentally use this clip and then you tug the clip and break it or at least pull it out of its mounting. That's what happened to me, and I'll just show you where this fits. Well, I'm on the passenger side of my car and I've still got a clip in place there. So if I show you, here's the seatbelt bracket, seatbelt comes down, and if you move the seatbelt, you've got that little clip. And the idea is pop it there and it stops this from getting in the way of the door aperture. Without that, the theory was that this is a little bit flappy. It could knock whilst you're driving in a convertible, which is not Jag. This is the mounting system at the bottom, which is not unique to this car, that's for sure. It's used on a lot of two-door sporty cars. You've just got a loop that this slides around on. And because the seatbelt's been in use, you've took it off, very often it will settle like that. Meaning that somebody could put their foot through that on the way into the back, trip up, or worse still, trip up on the way out and do a face plant. So for sort of health and safety risk assessment reasons, it's there. Now on the driver's side of mine, you'll see it's missing. And it's missing because the seatbelt got in to the clip. Oops, let's just pop that in there. There we go. It got into the clip, tucked itself in there, and then I grabbed hold of the seatbelt a bit quick, pulled it, and popped it out. And 25-year-old plastics mean this actually broke into 3 pieces. It's supposed to fit open edge forward. There's a big hook that goes into the hole at the front, and there's effectively a little barb that holds it into the hole at the back. So to remove it, you would push forward on the back edge and pull out slightly. As soon as you pulled it out slightly, you should be able to unhook the front. So here we have a complete clip. Let's have a better look at it. Whoops. Let's get it in a position where you guys can see the profile. P.S. I say guys a lot. I don't mean men. It's just a habit. I use mate and guys and folks a lot. It's not meant to be disrespectful. So the front edge, the open edge of the clip, has this L shape that hooks underneath the trim, going for that aperture. And the back edge has a barb. So you hook this under and then just push the back in. To get it off, you push hard that way forward and bring this edge away from the trim slightly, and as soon as you sense that happening, give it a little wriggle and you should get the thing out by sort of unhooking it. This is our complete seatbelt holdback clip. Let's have a look at my broken one. So this was in 3 pieces, and I've used super glue to bond it back together. But you can see it's lost its barb because when it got a sudden pull, it just pulled the top off that piece there. And whereas this is supposed to be kind of a rectangular section, it's quite broad really. This one just has a little fragment left. So it is possible to still buy these things, but they're getting harder and more expensive. And if you want specific colours, again, adds degrees of difficulty into getting hold of them. Plus, they're not a huge demand for anybody to remanufacture them because so many people wouldn't even know they were there. So I'm going to have a go at repairing mine, and in doing so I'm going to do some plastic welding because I enjoy plastic welding. As I said, super glued this previously because it was broke into several pieces, and part of the issue I've got now is this isn't tight, whereas on the original it's tight, so that gives me a chance to sort that. And I'm going to remake, so a new lesson if you like, connected with plastic welding. I'm going to build a new piece for this end. Oh, for those of you who watch all the programs on the channel, the videos, I'll just explain this stuff in the background. So recently we got the Elgrand Ellie, and I explained that it had got some known issues, part of the reason I was able to purchase it at a very reasonable price. Noisy front suspension, which turned out to be just the gaiters which go over the front dampers or McPherson struts and cover up the shiny bits. And this is a new one, and this area here had literally dropped off, leaving the diameter like that. So this was able to wag around and collide with the side of the damper. Plus it was hard and plasticky, whereas this is nice and rubbery. Also, the bump stops that are inside these and just slide up and down on a column were rattling around and broken into several pieces. So although the dampers look good, these weren't, and I've got these to replace those. So that's one task. It needed a set of brake pads all round, not really a reason I got it cheap. And here we've got a prop shaft centre bearing, 2 front wheel bearings and 2 rear wheel bearings, because there is a kind of drone at speed and it builds with speed. It's all road speed connected. Wouldn't worry most people, but it irritates me to death, and I did know about it when I bought it. It's one of the reasons I got it at a very good price. So all that to fit. So onto this. So first fix is going to be to reset this. You can see it's open, whereas the original unbroken one, there we go, same way round, that's naturally closed and would grip the seat belt. So this is glued wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp that shut, and then using my soldering iron, the area where I've glued, I'm just going to reheat it, and it'll probably come adrift, and then join it back together. To help me with this, I've got one of my handy dandy little clamps. As some of you will have seen in my previous videos on plastic welding and soldering, you can make up one of these things or similar very easily yourself. You don't have to buy one. Just get a couple of crocodile clips with screw-on terminals, put some steel wire or something like that into the end, tighten it up both so you've got a crocodile clip on either end of your wire, bend it round, and then clip it in your vise or something like that. But these are quite handy things. Soldering stands, I think they're called. I've got my soldering iron, just a conventional electrical soldering iron. It's not even a nice one, as many of my commenters have told me. What is it? It's a silver line 25 watt soldering iron. So nothing clever at all. Got a pointy tip on it, and all I'm going to do is where the glue joint is, I'm going to just stretch plastic across that joint. I don't want to make too much of a mess because this is a exposed surface. I mean, literally nobody will see it but me. And then on the top surface there's another join. This won't be seen. So here I could be a little bit more aggressive. Always do this in a really well ventilated space, or wear a respirator mask because the plastics will gas off some nasties. And I use super glue, and super glue is better known as cyanoacrylate for cyanoreed cyanide. Not quite as deadly as it sounds, but certainly not good for you. I'm just going to go over the other area where it was repaired. You're just stretching plastic from one side to the other, bridging the gap. I'm going probably less than 0.5 millimeter deep, even though this is on an unseen side. Pushing it backwards and forwards, essentially mixing it, and then smooth it over the side of my soldering iron. And that is now one piece of plastic rather than a join. Got these pieces of my old broken headlight, and they are a similar material, and although I can't find the marking on it that says it's ABS, what I want to do is just test compatibility before I do anything else. So I'm just going to break a piece off here. Just go there and snap that piece off like this. Is ABS and in better condition. It's quite tough. There we go. And what I want to do as a quick check is see if I can attach it to the other piece which I've got, which is ABS, easily. So on an unseen surface here where I've done the repair is ideal. All I'm going to do, you can put these two things together and just stretch the plastic using the heat from one to the other. Only a little bit, I don't need much. Let it cool for a few seconds, and then I picked it up, and if it was a different material it may catch eventually, you'll get it to glue together, but I'm genuinely pulling that. That was just a tiny contact point, probably 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter, maybe 2 mil by 1 mil, and it took a bit of effort to pull off. So these are compatible materials. Now, to make life easy for myself, what I could do with is a section of this piece of plastic that approximates to this. Now, I'm not going to find a barb this shape, that's for sure. But what I have got is, and I'm hoping I can show you well on camera, a bit fiddly. There's a little blade running around the edge of here. So what I'm thinking of doing is cutting a strip. Let's get something to point with. I'll cut a section like that strip that's the same width as that, i.e. that way, which is about 8mm I would guess. And then rather than having that section with the triangle at the top, I will end up with a T. So first thing is get a couple of sample pieces cut out of this. This would cut with a knife relatively easily, but a saw is going to give me a little bit more control. So quite flexy the way I've got it clamped. So if you draw cut, you're using the wrong side of the teeth, much blunter, but plastic will give, and you won't snag and bend and break the plastic. So just pull a junior hacksaw through, if it's a thin section, like this, to get a decent effect. Get my width about right. And now I need to get the approximate height. And if there's any lesson I'm teaching you here, because this isn't clever stuff, it's, yeah, save a few scrap pieces of plastics in various forms from your car in various colours. It might seem like the most random thing to save, but we'd all probably save wood from leftovers from building a shed, or aluminium sections that we were using for a project. Scrap plastics, we tend not to, just because plastics are seen as so disposable. We really should not see them that way. Right, I'm going to reposition the camera and I'll show you this. Okay, so here's the original again. And here is the piece I've just cut. And yes, it's a different section at the moment. But I think you can see I can make this. It's even got the slope on the top edge of that blade there. So if we look at height, it needs to be about 1 millimeter above the surface to work. And why have I cut it like that? Because I've still got a fragment of the base here. What I'm thinking of doing is cutting that down nice and flat to give me a starter for where this is going to fit. So I'll do that next. Okay, so we've got the bit of trim stuck in my vise and this bit of aluminium behind it is somewhere for this to sit. And hopefully what you can see is I've got a little cross section, looks like that. And that I'm going to sit on top of the aluminium. Reposition like so. And as soon as I can get that tacked in place, should be good. Okay, so got my screwdriver just to hold things in position. And then I'm just going to try and stitch this to this. And just taking a little bit of plastic from one side and smoothing it over to the other. Now see just how unambidextrous I am. Try and do it with the other hand. Okay, that should have got it caught. So I just loosen my clamp off. Yep. That's the right position. Now I've got some scraps of plastic that I'm going to use as filler. Because I could do with some more body. With this particular piece you can't really build a gusset to strengthen things up because it'll catch and the whole thing will stand a bit proud. But if that was an option, that's what I'd be doing. Well, it's not looking too bad. Found another little strip of plastic. Barely more than a bit of flash or overfill, whatever you want to call it. Just dropping it into that space. I'm going to use a side of the iron to melt it. Just get some extra body into that area. That's looking good. So what I'm going to do now is stitch the back. So again, see my previous videos for this technique in detail, but push plastic from one side of the join across, then bring it back the other way. You're mixing plastics really. This is looking quite promising. Okay, I'm going to let that cool, which will take all of about 30 seconds, and then I'm going to just file it to see what I've got. I'm going to file nice and fine with an edge serration, so I can go into this gap, just lose the spiky bits. Well, I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, but I'm really pleased with the initial results. See? Not a million miles away from the original shape. I'm very pleased with that. Let's get the original to compare. Not that bad, eh? So I'm going to continue just fettling that for a little while. A bit more filing, probably a bit more plastic dropped on it to fill any little voids I've created. Let's take this tape off so we can see the whole thing better. But I shan't bore you with the whole process. All I'll do is I'll come back to you when I've finished, and I will genuinely film installation 1. We'll see if it fits in that gap together. You can manufacture things if you've got scrap plastics around you, and rebuild. Plastic welding. Is there more fun to be had? I don't know. Okay, it's the moment of truth. I've finished fettling this thing. It looks quite smart. Very pleased with how it's turned out. And genuinely not tried this, so come in with me. Okay, so the open end goes towards the front. The hook that's rock solid goes in first. Then my hook has got to basically spring into position, so this is where we find out if the result is strong enough. Wriggle it into position, push forward and push the back edge back. And we're in. Ha-ha! One remanufactured seatbelt clip. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little video. Bit of a secret of the Xk8 in that the belt clip is not well known because they're mainly missing. And yeah, a bit more plastic welding. I know many of you are really getting into your plastic welding. I get lots of comments and questions about it on a regular basis, despite making a video on it quite some time back. It's quite a nice hobby. It's very satisfying, and you don't need a lot of equipment or skills. Some scrap plastics, a couple of soldering irons, some wire mesh, a few staples, bits and pieces like that, and you can achieve anything. If you've not already seen it, I'll put a link, a little card top right hand corner of the screen for you to go back to the full lesson on plastic welding rather than just this little gadget. And I look forward to seeing you all very soon on To The Garage. Bye! If you're enjoying our channel, then don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell icon so you get notifications of new videos. And please give us a thumbs up or thumbs down, and you can share the videos. And below the video is always the area where you can comment and get involved with the chat.